I fell for my boss's son. I walked around taking everything in. It was a beautiful house and I couldn't believe I was supposed to stay and take care of it for the next week. I was stunned looking around the kitchen when I heard a noise. I followed it till it led me to the inside pool. No one was supposed to be here. Before walking in there, my nervous hands grabbed the first thing they found and held it up in case I needed to strike someone. Slowly, I walked inside and I found myself watching a man swimming. "Hey!" I screamed. "What are you doing here?" The man stopped and turned to look at me surprised. "Oh, hey!" He greeted me with a smile as if we were friends. I stared at his face, trying to see if I knew him, but I didn't. "Who are you?" I asked, still cautious. He just looked at me with a knowing smile as he walked towards the stairs of the pool. My cheeks flushed as I clumsily covered my face and turned around. He was completely naked. I heard him walking towards me. "Are you crazy? Why are you naked?" "Have you ever heard of skinny dipping?" he asked in an ironic tone. "You should try it. It's great." "Yeah, or maybe I should just call the police on you," I threatened, not amused. He laughed again and walked around till he was in front of me. Thankfully, he now had a towel wrapped around his waist. "I didn't know it was illegal to swim naked in your own pool." "Right. Tell that to the police." I pulled out my phone, ready to call 911. "What's your name?" "Sam," he answered. "Sam Hendrickson." "Hendrickson?" I paled when I heard the last name. He nodded with a big grin on his face. "Not calling the police anymore?" I gulped and slowly put my phone away. "I'm assuming you are one of my dad's minions. Every time my father travels, he leaves someone on babysitting duty." He looked me up and down indiscreetly. "Normally old geezers, though, and you are not that at all." "Babysitting? No, that was impossible. My new boss asked me to take care of his house while he went on a business trip for a few days, not to take care of his so-called son, which was definitely too old to need a babysitter. He looked to be around my age. I quickly excused myself and walked away from Sam until I was outside of the house. There, I dialed Mr. Hendrickson. "Oh, hello, Miguel," he greeted me as soon as he answered. "I'm a little bit busy right now, but tell me, son, is everything all right?" "Yeah, it's just, I've just arrived at the house and I think there's been a misunderstanding because your son is here and he said something about babysitting," I explained, confused, scratching my forehead. "Right, that," he sighed and cleared his throat. "Listen, I just need you to watch over him for a couple of days. I don't like it when he is alone at home." "Sir, I don't think—" "Miguel," he interrupted. "Sam is a good guy. He just tends to be impulsive and he doesn't make the best decisions. You just need to help him stay out of trouble. I entrusted this job to you because you are a responsible and trustworthy young man. I am hoping some of that can rub off on Sam." I sighed, defeated. It didn't look like I had a choice in this. "Okay, I'll do my best, sir." I walked back inside to find Sam sitting on the couch in his underwear, throwing popcorn and trying to catch it with his mouth. The floor was a mess, and I tried not to be annoyed by the cans of beer next to his feet. "Hello, Mr. Babysitter," he stopped and smiled at me. "Okay, first of all, my name is Miguel," I clarified, holding one finger up and then another one. "Second, when I'm here, use clothes, please, and can you stop doing that?" He continued throwing popcorn, probably ignoring me. I reached quickly, catching it in my hand. He looked at me amused. "Impressive." "Were you even listening?" I huffed, annoyed. "You are Miguel, the babysitter, and you hate nudity. Did I miss something?" "Listen, let's just not make things difficult. You behave and I'll stay out of your way. It'll be just for a few days, so let's help each other out." He leaned on the couch, stretching himself. He smiled at me, again looking at me up and down. I didn't appreciate how nervous he made me. "Sure, let's help each other out." 4 days later. After that, I soon realized that Sam and I were not on the same page and my patience was running thin. It was hard every night doing my best to ruin his efforts to throw a party at the house. Whenever a big group of people would show up, I just told them to leave and even threatened to call the police multiple times. Instead of being angry about it, Sam looked amused, like this was a game to him. In the end, I decided to be the bigger person and extend an olive branch. I offered a deal. I wouldn't meddle anymore if he promised that he would only bring just a few of his friends. Surprisingly, he agreed without putting up a fight. That same night, he brought 3 friends, and as promised, I tried to stay out of his way. I safely kept to myself in the guest room I was staying in. That was until I got hungry. When I walked into the kitchen, I found the group in there, drinking and laughing. They looked wasted, but I refrained from saying something, and I quietly made my sandwich. "Come on, Sam, have another shot with me," one of the guys said while hooking his arm around Sam's shoulders. Sam said no multiple times, but he was already pretty drunk, but this tall, muscular guy wasn't having it. He held Sam's jaw to pry it open to force a shot down his throat, and Sam was struggling to set himself free as everyone else was laughing and cheering. "Okay, you guys should leave," I said almost as an order. Everyone stopped, looked at me, and then exchanged glances between them. The guy who was forcing Sam huffed and rolled his eyes. Sam took advantage of the situation and slipped away from his grasp. "Why is your butler telling us what to do?" the friend asked as he crossed his arms in front of his chest, trying his best to look intimidating. Sam stood in front of him when he tried to walk up to me. "I think he is right. You should leave," Sam said, suddenly not sounding as drunk. The guy laughed, but his smile stilled when he saw Sam's serious expression. "Whatever, you are so boring anyway. We only come here for the parties." That's the only thing they said before the group headed out. Sam and I looked at each other for a second in silence. If he was embarrassed, he didn't show it. "Your friends suck," I verbalized my thoughts. Sam chuckled. "I know." I started walking out of the kitchen, sandwich in hand, when Sam spoke again. "Thanks for that, by the way." I glanced at him and smiled before leaving my room. 3 days later. After that night, Sam stopped trying to invite people over, and instead he decided to stick by my side whenever he was at home. At first, it was annoying and I mostly ignored him, but eventually, we started talking more and more. Even I didn't want to accept it. I enjoyed spending time with him. He was chaotic and chatty, but I could tell he was a good guy. He was funny and also quite charming. Tonight was not different when Sam sat down next to me, this time with 2 cans of beer. He wiggled his eyebrows with a sneaky smile on his face. "No way," I said, shaking my head. "Oh, come on," he complained. Sam slid a can towards me. "Today's your last day here. We have to celebrate. It will be just a chill farewell party, just you and me. We are not getting wasted because I know you gotta be up early." I stared at him, ready to reject him, but his big blue puppy eyes made me smile and I finally took the beer. That night, we talked until late at night. This time was different from the rest of our conversations though, which were more like trivial banter. That night, I realized I didn't know a whole lot about him. I didn't know how old he was, but I found out later he was 23, 2 years younger than me. Sam talked to me about his family and how he grew up. He told me about his mom's passing when he was little and how it affected his dad. It was obvious how much he cared about his dad. Sam later explained that they had a complicated relationship, but they were close. It was nice hearing him speak. In the beginning, that was the only thing I was doing, drinking and listening. After all, I've never been good at opening up. But somehow, as the conversation went on, I started also to share things about my past, like how my mom was from South Africa and the struggles that came with growing up biracial, with 2 cultures. Sam made me feel at ease, or maybe it was just the beer. I would also say we were so touchy and close to each other only because we were tipsy, even though we only had 2 beers each. I was having him play with my hair and hold my hand. Before going to bed, Sam mumbled about how much he was going to miss me and hugged me tightly. I pretended my heart didn't beat faster at that and went to sleep. 2 weeks later, Mr. Hendrickson thanked me and praised me for helping him out. And just like that, my life continued as it always did, with me focusing most of my energy at work. Except now, there was a new factor added. Sam came every day to visit the company. After finishing my work in that house, 3 days of peace went by, only to be interrupted by a young blonde man waiting for me at my desk, smiling shamelessly. I was at first pleasantly surprised, but then I was slightly annoyed, especially because Sam made it his personal mission to ask me out or flirt with me whenever he could. He was a charming man, and if I was being honest, I felt attracted to him. But he was the son of my boss. Trying something with him was too reckless, and I hated reckless, so I did my best to kindly reject his advances. After all, I didn't want to hurt his feelings, but he was more than relentless. And what's worse, Mr. Hendrickson was extremely pleased with his son's presence at the office. He even thanked me for being a good influence and for making him feel interested in the company, because apparently he had tried to get Sam more involved for years. I didn't have the heart to tell him that Sam had other intentions coming there. "So, when is your lunch break?" Sam asked as he sat in front of my desk. He was toying around with my pens and paper clips. I didn't bother to look at him. I was too busy, eyes fixed on my laptop screen. "I'm skipping it." "Why?" His voice sounded almost outraged, but then he added with a pout, "I wanted to eat with you." "I want to finish this today," I answered plainly, "and I'm not eating with you, you know that." There was a moment of silence. "Why do you keep doing that?" he inquired. "Working?" I retorted. "Rejecting me, not giving me a chance." His voice was defeated and hurt. It made me stop typing. Especially how well we connected that last night. I cleared my throat. "I don't know what you are talking about." Come on, I saw how you were looking at me, he said in a do you think I'm stupid tone in his voice. His hand reached closer to me on the table, but he didn't actually touch me. For the first time, my eyes snapped to look at him. No, you! I stumbled into my words. I didn't know what face I was making, but Sam arched his eyebrow, please. Don't you have somewhere else to be? You don't have classes? I tried to change the topic desperately. Exams, midterms, anything? He stopped for a second and looked down as he shrugged. Maybe. Then why are you here wasting your time? I asked, legitimately worried. I wouldn't say I'm wasting my time, he mumbled, fidgeting with my pens again. I gently put my hand on the pens where his hand was not grabbing, making him stop. I noticed our fingers grazing each other, but I let it happen. College is important. You are about to graduate. Please focus on that. I know you can do it. He looked at me and then at our hands. A smile formed on his face and his eyes lit up with a new dangerous idea in mind. Maybe I'd be more motivated if I had a reward. I didn't like where this was going. What do you mean? If I do well in school, would you accept to go on a date with me? He batted his eyelashes at me. Those damn blue eyes. I laughed, trying to hide my nervousness. You're joking. I'm serious. His fingers moved to the rest of my hand and he looked me straight into my eyes. Dazed, I bit my lip and sighed in defeat. Fine. He almost jumped in his seat and his big smile felt almost contagious. I pointed at him and gave him a serious look. You have to bring me some good scores in those exams, okay? And then we'll have the date. Only one date. 3 weeks later. For 3 weeks, I didn't see Sam at all. For a moment, I thought he had forgotten about the deal, or maybe he was no longer interested in me. I tried not to think too much about that or the strange feeling that thought created in my chest. At first, I appreciated the alone time. Being able to finally concentrate at work without having someone hovering over my shoulder was wonderful and peaceful. But soon enough, I started missing his presence, jokes, and his sly looks. I would never admit that to him, though. This didn't last forever, though. 3 weeks later, I arrived at my desk to find Sam comfortably sitting in my chair with a big smug smile on his face. He didn't say anything. He only slapped something on my desk. They were multiple exams and all with A's. I blinked a couple of times as he wiggled his eyebrows. He had done it, and just like that, I was forced to go on a date with the son of my boss. When he picked me up the next Saturday, I thought we would go out for dinner or maybe watch a movie, anything normal for a first date. But of course, he didn't do normal. When I asked where we were headed and he answered the word concert, my eyes opened as big as they could. When we arrived, I was astonished by the amount of people. It was my first time doing anything like that. I had never gone to a concert, mostly because I always felt nervous about big crowds and loud noises. Of course, this occasion wasn't the exception. As soon as we were inside, I started fidgeting and nervously tapping my foot. My hand turned into a fist to avoid biting my nails. Sam made me notice this because he hooked his arm over my shoulders and pulled me closer. When I looked at him, he smiled at me, and that comforted me more than it should. Surprisingly, I ended up having a lot of fun. I wasn't a fan of the band, but it turns out I was familiar with a lot of their songs. Sam grabbed both of my hands as we both started singing, and we got so excited we started jumping while we were screaming the lyrics to each other, never breaking eye contact. There was a moment during the night when the band played a slow song. Honestly, I had never heard it before, but I liked it. It was romantic and sweet. During it, Sam stopped moving and looked deeply into my eyes. What is it? I asked into his ear. He shook his head as he put both his hands on my shoulders and then pulled me in to whisper back. You are ethereal. I cannot stop looking. Sorry. A bubbly laugh came out of me and I felt my heart swelling. I grabbed him by the neck and kissed him. He gasped against my lips and then smiled before kissing me back with his hands all over my back. I like you so much, I finally admitted between kisses. Sam held my face for a moment and grinned at me. Me too, Miguel. 3 hours later. After the concert was over, we walked to the closest bar and apparently everyone at the event had the same idea. The streets and the establishment were so full of people. Sam grabbed me by the hand with the excuse to not lose me in the crowd. Tonight, I decided not to think too much about the consequences, and that's how I ended up taking several shots and sharing more kisses with Sam as we danced to the beat of whatever song the barman was playing. Sam was fun, exciting, and sweet. He made me feel free, and I loved that. The night went on, and we both ended quite drunk. Sam way more than me, I would say. As we got out of the bar, someone approached us. It was one of Sam's friends, apparently Jonathan. He looked dodgy, if I was being honest, with foggy eyes and a shaky body. That man was on something, and if I had been sober, I would probably have said something about it. Sam and I continued to walk in the busy streets as he hugged his friend who decided to tag along, laughing loudly, almost screaming. That's when we stumbled upon a pair of men. They were cops. My first reaction was to freeze up, and I wish Sam would have reacted the same way. "Is everything okay?" the policeman asked as he stopped us, grabbing Sam's shoulder. I looked at Sam in disbelief as he laughed in that man's face. "Yeah, of course, man. What about you? You good?" He stumbled as he clapped the cop's shoulder. I tried to squeeze the hand that was still grabbing mine to stop him. I bet not as good as me. The man in uniform looked at all of us up and down with scorning eyes. "What did you take to have such a good time?" Sam laughed again and I paled. "Wouldn't you love to know?" "Sam, stop," I whispered as I tried to pull on his arm. Was he crazy? The policeman's expression soured even more after that, and his eyes went from us to Sam's friend, who had gone a little too quiet. "Oh, I know you," the cop said as he pointed at Jonathan, and that's when everything went into chaos. Jonathan tried to bolt the other way, and the other policeman, the one who hadn't said a word, was quick enough to get a hold of his backpack. Jonathan slipped out of his grasp by letting go of the bag, and that's when they both disappeared from my eyesight as a chase began. Sam's smile dropped from his face, and he looked at me confused. The cop that stayed behind grabbed the backpack from the floor and opened it. I looked to see what was inside, and my heart dropped when I saw the content. A Ziploc with pills. Shit. Everything was a mess afterwards. Even though I was pleading and trying to explain that we didn't know anything about the bag, we were still cuffed and brought into the police station. Sam wasn't laughing anymore, but he was acting nonchalantly like it wasn't a big deal. All the way there, I was losing my mind. Sam tried to calm me the whole time by rubbing my back and promising me everything was going to be okay. I stayed quiet the whole ride, but he did help me calm down. When we arrived, Sam tried to talk to me, but at this point, I had completely shut down. I couldn't even look at him, let alone speak. I barely could nod and mumble at the cops whenever I was addressed. This was the only way for me not to cry like a baby in front of everyone. This wasn't supposed to happen. 20 minutes later, I was nervously fidgeting when the cop told us we could leave without any explanation. I was confused because it looked like we were in a really bad situation and everything pointed to actually getting charged. Sam hugged me in relief. I was so happy, I even pecked his lips, to which Sam responded with a smile. As we walked outside, someone was standing at the entrance. My mouth fell open when I saw my boss leaning against the wall with his hands in his pockets, and everything clicked. We had got out because of Sam's dad and his connections. That felt so wrong, and apparently, Mr. Hendrickson disliked the situation too. He looked more than pissed. "Thank you for saving us, Dad," Sam said. Mr. Hendrickson only huffed as we walked to the car, not before giving me the coldest look. Sam hung his arm on my shoulders, pulled me closer, and kissed the side of my face as he whispered in my ear, "See? Told you everything was going to be fine." I stayed silent. It wasn't fine. Nothing was, and I could see it in my boss's disapproving eyes. A couple of days later. I have been avoiding Sam's calls during the rest of the weekend. I couldn't stop thinking about how my boss was looking at me. He had never seen me with such an expression on his face. I was embarrassed that I had to let this thing with Sam go so far when I knew from the beginning how messy and wrong it was. It was Monday, and I couldn't hide in my bedroom forever, so I got up and headed to work. I was dreading having to face my boss again. Maybe that's why I wasn't expecting to find Sam sitting in the office lobby, almost guarding it. I couldn't do this right now, so I just walked past him hoping he would let me go, but he didn't. "Why are you avoiding me?" Sam asked as he grabbed my arm. "Did I do something?" "You got me arrested," I snapped at him, freeing my arm from his grasp. "But the charges got dropped. Nothing happened." He tried to touch my cheek, but I dodged it. I looked to both sides, trying to see if my boss could be watching. Thankfully, he wasn't. "Hey, listen, it wasn't that big of a deal. You're fine." And that's when suddenly anger built inside of me. "Of course you would think that." Sam's eyebrows pinched for just a second, and he looked at me confused as an awkward laugh left his lips. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. I'm happy for you," I said sarcastically. If I had a dad who would get me out of any trouble, I also wouldn't give a shit about anything either. I knew that I was out of line and I was acting bitter. The emotions that I had bottled up were now coming to the surface. "What? You are saying it as if he didn't help you too." More than offended, he looked confused. "I don't get what's wrong with that." "He helped me, and that's exactly what's wrong here, okay?" I huffed in desperation. "My boss isn't supposed to bail me out." He looked at me stunned, with those lost puppy dog eyes I liked so much. I sighed as I felt the anger leaving my body. Listen, I grabbed him by the shoulder and tried to be gentle this time, pulling him away, looking for more privacy. I can't let anything jeopardize what I have built for myself. My work is my priority. What about me? Sam, I sighed as I shook my head. No, you told me you liked me. Come on, don't do this. We can have something good, you know it, he pleaded, his eyes filled with water. Sam, I can't let myself be part of your reckless behavior anymore. My fingers went to his hair and gently combed his fringe. You are still figuring things out and that's fine, but I'm not there anymore. We are in different stages of our lives. He stayed quiet for a second. So this is it? I nodded at him weakly. I kissed his cheek one last time before leaving, and I only let myself cry for only 5 minutes in the bathroom before walking into the office. A few hours later, even though my boss didn't address the elephant in the room, his petty attitude towards me made it clear that he was more than pissed. The whole day he screamed as he constantly criticized my every move. I tried to quietly put up with it, but soon I realized it was impossible. Can we talk about it? I asked, feeling so uncomfortable. About what? He took a second before glaring at me. He didn't let me answer before continuing. Are you talking about how I had to bail you out because you got my son arrested? Or how I trusted my son with you and you ended up screwing him? Maybe it's about how you hid everything from me. I'm so sorry. I know I made a huge mistake. I should have been honest with you, but the truth is, I really care about Sam and I didn't screw him. We just went to only one date and that's it. Nothing else happened and nothing will. I already told him that, I rambled nervously. He shook his head disapprovingly. You know what pisses me off? He came here every day and I truly believe it was because he was interested in his old man's company like an idiot. But he was just chasing you and you didn't say anything. I'm so sorry, I repeated. I sighed defeated. Should I quit? If you are no longer comfortable with my presence here, Are you an idiot? He interrupted me. Of course not. I'm not sure about your quality as a person anymore, but your work is impeccable. Just leave. I need to be alone. I nodded before walking out. 3 months later. Time went by and I thought about Sam quite a lot. As soon as we split up, he consumed my every thought. Things at work were good, or as good as they could be. My boss's harsh attitude toward me dialed down after that conversation, but things were never the same. There was this strange coldness and distance that I had to force myself to get used to. It wasn't ideal, but it was better than the pettiness. One day, as any other day, I walked into the office, coffee in hand. As I stepped in, I couldn't help to stare at someone. I missed Sam, and my mind tended to play games on me. For a second, that's what I thought was happening when I saw someone who looked just like Sam. That person was standing in front of the printer, giving me his back. His hair was the same blonde hair color, but the hairstyle was different. Shorter. Not him. But when the person turned around, I gasped. It was Sam! His eyes lit up and a huge smile appeared on his face when he noticed me. He walked up to me. Miguel! I thought for a second he was going to hug me, but he didn't, and I felt disappointed. Sam! Hi! I hope I didn't sound as awkward as I felt. What are you doing here? Visiting your dad? Not exactly. I graduated, he chuckled. He extended his arms to show me his outfit. He even spun for me. He looked put together, with a classic white button-up and a blue tie. He looked quite handsome. So I started working here, as an apprentice, but still, gotta start somewhere. Really? I couldn't help the big smile forming on my face. Congratulations. Thanks. I decided to take life more seriously. He crossed his arms in front of his chest. Someone pretty much told me I was reckless, stupid, and privileged. It was really eye-opening. Really? Sounds like he is amazing. Yeah, he is really special. There is no one like him. I felt myself blush. Before I could answer, Mr. Hendrickson appeared behind him. He looked at me and then at him. My cheeks blushed as if I'd been caught doing something I was not supposed to. Son, don't you have to take those copies somewhere? He smiled at Sam and chuckled when he clumsily ran through the office. I shifted awkwardly when we were alone. I am so proud of Sam. He really had turned his life around. He looked towards the direction Sam disappeared for a second, and then he peered at me with an arched brow. And whatever pushed this change on him, I'm grateful. At the end of the day, you are a good influence on him, and that is all that matters. That is the only thing he said before clasping my shoulder and walking away. A month later, Sam and I started to hang out, but mostly as friends, or that's what we agreed on. So every single day and lunch break, we would go out to eat together. And after work, we would also spend time together, mostly walking and chatting. Those were the moments when we would hold each other's hands and hug, pretending like that was also friendly behavior. I could tell Sam had matured in the short period we were apart, and his dedication at work was proof of that. We were on our lunch breaks, sitting outside on a bench, and Sam was going on about work-related stuff he was passionate about. I looked at him mesmerized. At that moment, I noticed how much I loved this guy, and I couldn't help it anymore. As he was in mid-sentence, I grabbed him by the shirt and I kissed his lips. "Wow, Miguel, what about going slow?" Sam teased me. "You were being a little reckless." I rolled my eyes. "Maybe I also learned something from you." "Good," he whispered, as he went in for another kiss, which I gladly accepted. I pulled away. "Okay, let's now stop. I shouldn't be doing this to Mr. Hendrickson. We are barely back on good terms now. I think he secretly still hates me for even talking to you." "Hate you?" Sam looked at me genuinely confused. "Are you kidding me? He thinks highly of you." I laughed as I rolled my eyes. "I'm being serious. He even gave me the 'don't mess it up this time' talk, and not because he was worried about me. I can assure you that." Sam smiled as he grabbed my hand and kissed the back of it gently. "I promise this to you. This time no messing up. I'm serious about this, about you, okay? I swear. I believe you." This time, I did. After that, Sam and I started dating officially. We tried to keep it out of the office most of the time, just to be professional, but not because we wanted to hide it. This time, we were honest from the beginning, and Mr. Hendrickson didn't even bother acting surprised. That same day, we had dinner at his place, and even though it was really awkward and strange at the beginning, somehow my boss kept inviting me over, and that's how it developed into a weekly tradition. He constantly thanked me for being a good influence on his son. Sam eventually got a proper position in the company with his determination and relentlessness. On the other side, I also got promoted. We were so happy, especially because we had so many dreams and plans we wanted to achieve in the future. Get married, buy a house together, maybe even adopt? The end. Have you ever dated someone you shouldn't? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome.